Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Monday Night Raw tonight, as always, was a snoozer of a show. Absolutely terrible. WWE is now building towards Elimination Chamber, which is in 3 weeks. It's on the 17th. And WWE, they did something right tonight. They actually gave us qualifying matches for the Elimination Chamber. So for the qualifying matches, we had Austin Theory versus Kevin Owens. We had Matt Riddle versus Otis. And AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. Those were the 3 qualifying matches that we got tonight for the Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. And then we saw The Miz versus Dominik Mysterio, Bianca Bel-Air versus Carmella, Rhea Ripley versus Nikki A.S.H. We had Ronda Rousey end up appearing on the show tonight because she was advertised to appear, which they announced during the Royal Rumble. But overall, Monday Night Raw tonight, absolutely terrible show. God awful. But let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce was in the ring. He ended up welcoming us to the show, and he touted the performances of Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey, your winners of this year's Royal Rumbles, where Brock Lesnar won the Rumble for the men, and Ronda Rousey won for the Women's Rumble. He also touted Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley being the new WWE Champion by defeating Brock Lesnar, thanks to Roman Reigns. So Adam Pearce ended up saying that we are officially on the road to WrestleMania. And there is one roadblock. And that one roadblock is the Elimination Chamber, which is going to be held in Saudi Arabia on the 17th. So Adam Pearce ended up saying that Bobby Lashley will defend the WWE Championship against 5 other superstars in the Elimination Chamber. So Adam Pearce then got interrupted by Bobby Lashley, the almighty Bobby Lashley, which, Bobby Lashley, of course, came out along with MVP. Bobby Lashley ended up in the ring. He posed in the corner. He had pyro going off. MVP got on the mic, and he ended up saying to Adam Pearce, "That is not how this goes." MVP went on about how Bobby Lashley has already proved his worth. So Bobby Lashley then ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up asking Adam Pearce who the hell he thinks he is. He ended up saying that he's supposed to be celebrating his win over Brock Lesnar. He ended up saying that he knew all along that he could beat Brock Lesnar. Lashley ended up saying about how he's better than Brock Lesnar in various areas. He ended up saying that if we have any questions, you can look at the footage and see how he won. So Bobby Lashley ended up asking, who's the Beast, the Conqueror, and the Champion now? Bobby Lashley. So Bobby Lashley then raised the title in the air, and then out came Brock Lesnar. Out came the Beast, the Conqueror. So Lesnar got a huge pop from the Cincinnati crowd. Lesnar was dressed like he was ready to wrestle. So Lesnar ended up heading down to the ring. He walked around the ringside area. Lesnar then marched into the ring. MVP started speaking, and Brock Lesnar ended up telling MVP to shut up, or he'll put that cane right up his ass, which I laughed at. Loving this Brock Lesnar, this version of Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar ended up taunting Bobby Lashley. He ended up asking if he's really going to stand here and pretend like he's the champion. Lesnar ended up saying, from one athlete to another. What's the pride in that? Because you know you didn't beat him on Saturday. So Lesnar ended up saying that Lashley knows he only won because of Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. So Lesnar ended up saying that he isn't mad at Bobby Lashley, and that's all good. He ended up saying that he is mad at both Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Lesnar ended up saying that after that little debacle of a match they had, which was good until that point, and Lesnar ended up giving Bobby Lashley props for the match. So he ended up saying about how he took it upon himself to enter the Rumble, and newsflash, he won the Rumble. So Brock Lesnar ended up explaining to Bobby Lashley how he gets to pick his opponent for WrestleMania. So Lesnar ended up saying that he's going with Reigns. But at WrestleMania, his match with Reigns will be title versus title. So there you go. Your main event is set for WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, title versus title. Hopefully it's that unification match where they unify both the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship. And hopefully when that happens, if it does happen, WWE ends the brand split. But hopefully that happens. But it's WWE. They're probably not going to do it. Lesnar then challenged Bobby Lashley for his rematch in Cincinnati, as what Lesnar ended up calling the city. MVP backed Bobby Lashley off as him and Lesnar were having some words with each other. And MVP ended up saying that after talking with the champion, Brock Lesnar can go to the end of the line and earn his shot. MVP then wanted to say that Lesnar's challenge is denied. So Lesnar kept taunting Bobby Lashley. Lashley was shown seething at Brock Lesnar. So Lesnar ended up calling Bobby Lashley a chicken shit bitch, which of course was bleeped out. So MVP, he was trying to talk Bobby Lashley down, as did Adam Pearce. Lesnar was ready to fight, as he was still taunting Bobby Lashley. So MVP and Bobby Lashley ended up getting out of the ring, and Lesnar kept ranting at Bobby Lashley, and it was all bleeped out. Pearce ended up taking the mic after Bobby Lashley ended up leaving, so Pearce talked about the Elimination Chamber and how Lesnar ended up saying that he wants in. So Adam Pearce ended up making it official that Brock Lesnar will be one of the 5 challengers to Bobby Lashley in the Elimination Chamber. So Brock Lesnar is automatically in the Elimination Chamber. Did not have to qualify. He was just put in like that. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But this was a enjoyable segment here. Loving this version of Brock Lesnar, where you could just go out there and go get on the mic. So it was a good, enjoyable segment here. And we finally got our main event for WrestleMania. And now we have the first match of the night, Rhea Ripley versus Nikki A.S.H. And this was a snoozer of a match. This match was boring. Rhea Ripley, Nikki are in this little feud after Nikki ended up turning her back on Rhea Ripley. And of course, Nikki is supposed to be a heel, yet she's still coming out there smiling. This woman's supposed to be a heel, and she's coming out still smiling. So Rhea Ripley ended up coming out first, and then Nikki ended up coming out. So we had Rhea Ripley end up overpowering on Nikki. She ended up dominating on Nikki. Rhea Ripley ended up catching Nikki in mid-move, and she delivered a long vertical suplex to Nikki. So Nikki then retreated out of the ring to take a breather. So we had Rhea Ripley end up trying to take out Nikki, and Nikki ended up trapping Rhea Ripley in the apron, and Monday Night Raw went to commercial. When Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Nikki was dominating on Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley took control of the match again. She ended up nailing a basement dropkick to Nikki. Rhea Ripley ended up avoiding a roll-up and hit a big slam and ignoring a light suplex on Nikki. She ended up going for the cover, which Nikki kicked out too. Rhea Ripley ended up taking Nikki up to the top, started beating on her. Nikki delivered a double chop to Rhea Ripley's face, and then she ended up hitting a tornado DDT from the top. So she went for the cover. Rhea Ripley ended up kicking out at 2. So we had Nikki end up rolling through a crossbody. She ended up decking Rhea Ripley in the neck. Rhea Ripley came back. She ended up blocking a neck breaker from Nikki, and she turned it into the Riptide, and she went for the cover. And there you go. Rhea Ripley ended up winning the match. Overall, match was boring. Match was a snoozer. And then we saw Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Riddle and Chad Gable for this week's challenge, in the academic challenge, which last week was a spelling bee. And this week, it's a scooter race because Randy Orton ended up defeating Chad Gable, leading to Riddle saying, "Oh, this week it will be a scooter race." So Riddle and Chad Gable were there. Randy Orton wasn't on the show tonight. Only Riddle was there. So Chad Gable ended up saying that this is a disgrace and that the spelling bee was rigged. To which Riddle ended up saying that the spelling bee was rigged. So the rules of the scooter race is that Riddle and Chad Gable have to complete 50 laps backstage and finish the race at ringside. So Chad Gable ended up bragging about the suit that he was wearing. R-Truth ended up appearing, and he had a checkered flag in hand. So R-Truth ended up beginning the race, and Riddle and Gable end up racing around the backstage area with the scooters, and that was that. But I'm like, am I watching a wrestling show, or am I watching a show that's on Comedy Central? That's what this felt like. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had a Alexa Bliss Journey Back to Raw segment, which these segments have been fucking awful. So we saw the therapist, and he ended up saying to Bliss that he can see the wheels spinning in her head. And he ended up asking her what she's thinking. Bliss ended up telling the therapist about how he recently talked to her about imaginary things. She ended up saying that Lily has always been real, and that Lily always had her back. And so then we see these images of Alexa Bliss when she was younger, and this photoshopped image of Lily in the photos. So the therapist ended up asking what Bliss would do if Lily were to return to her. So Bliss ended up telling the therapist, "Oh, we would have a sleepover. I would hug her, I would dress her up in pajamas, and we would watch scary movies." So the therapist ended up having a replica of Lily. And he ended up asking Alexa Bliss how it makes her feel. And Bliss ended up seeming a bit hesitant and unsure. And she was calling it Lily. And then it just ended just randomly right there. This was awful. You know, they said, "Oh, yeah, Alexa Bliss, WWE has plans to make Alexa Bliss the goddess again, yet we're still seeing Alexa Bliss in the Wyndham Rotunda gimmick, when she was with Wyndham Rotunda with the magic. The WWE is prolonging turning Alexa Bliss back into the goddess. That's what I see them doing. They're just prolonging it. Oh, let's see more of magic Alexa Bliss with the doll, with Lily the doll, and the magic. That's all they're doing. And then we had The Miz versus Dominic Mysterio. This was awful. So The Miz ended up coming out, no Maurice. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Dominic ended up coming out along with his father, Rey Mysterio. So Miz and Rey ended up talking some trash, and the bell ended up ringing. Both Dominic and Miz ended up locking up. Miz took Dominic into the corner, and he went for a cheap shot. Dominic ended up decking the Miz and dropped him in the corner with a punch. So Dominic and Miz end up going at it. Dominic ended up sending Miz into position for the 619, which the Miz ended up dodging the 619, and he went out to the floor. Dominic ended up grabbing Miz from the ring. Miz ended up dropping him over the top rope, neck first. Miz then ended up sending Rey into the announce table. He got back to the ring, and Miz took control of Dominic. So you had Miz end up tripping himself, making it look like Rey ended up tripping him. And the referee ended up turning around, and the referee ended up thinking that Rey tripped the Miz. So because of that, the referee ended up ejecting Rey from ringside, and the Miz took advantage of the distraction. He grabbed Dominic from behind. He hit the skull crushing finale on Dominic. He went for the cover, and there you go. The Miz ended up winning the match. Overall, this was awful. This was absolutely fucking awful. So it looks like we're getting a Miz and Rey Mysterio feud. Or maybe the Miz and Mysterio's feud. Do you all care? I know I don't. I know you all probably don't either. So then we went backstage, 24/7 fucking shit with Tamina. Tamina ended up attacking Dana Brooke out of nowhere. Brooke ended up fighting Tamina off. Matt Riddle and Chad Gable ended up making another lap on their scooters, and this was lap 18 of 50. Tamina ended up recovering, and she ended up looking for Dana Brooke, and that was that. Who fucking cares? Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was out there for the Kevin Owens show. So Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Riddle was riding his scooter, and he ran into Omos. And Riddle ended up complimenting him on his eyes, which he called, "Oh, you got beautiful eyes." Omos got confused, and Riddle ended up saying he has to go as he rides away on lap 25 of 50. So that was that. Very random. Very random of Riddle commenting on Omos's eyes. His beautiful eyes. So we went back to the ring for the Kevin Owens show. We had Owens end up welcoming everyone to the KO show. He talked about how fun the Rumble is with titles being won and people being tossed over the top rope. Owens ended up mentioning there being a new WWE champion in Bobby Lashley. Owens ended up saying that he agrees. He ended up saying, but we're on the road to, listen to this word, the most stupendous WrestleMania of all time. I wouldn't call this upcoming WrestleMania to be stupendous. I don't consider that. So Owens ended up saying that he's in the Elimination Chamber match as soon as he beats the most sheltered superstar in history, Austin Theory. He ended up saying that he will get it done. So Kevin Owens ended up saying, but first, here's his guest, the man who should be Universal Champion. He ended up introducing Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins ended up making his way out, and he got into the ring. Owens ended up asking Rollins how he's doing, and if he wants to have a seat. Rollins ended up saying that he's not 100% sure, so maybe they will sit. Rollins ended up saying that Cincinnati is the hottest city in the world, and he wouldn't miss this. So he had the fans end up chanting for the Bengals, who won the game yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're going to be in the Super Bowl facing the LA Rams. Should be a good Super Bowl. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that the crowd's excited about something. Owens ended up sending us to a video package showing us, what happened with Rollins and Roman Reigns at the Rumble. So we saw that. Kevin Owens ended up saying that was disgusting and shameful. He ended up saying that Reigns did that because he knew Rollins was going to win. And he knew that he couldn't beat Rollins. That Reigns couldn't beat Rollins. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that while Rollins might not be the official Universal Champion, he is the champion of Kevin Owens' heart. Okay, that's random right there. Didn't that sound gay to any of you? So Rollins ended up thanking him. He ended up saying, that means a lot. So Rollins ended up laughing, and Rollins ended up saying that he's not here with the title, but he did acquire something else, a permanent piece of real estate in the brain of Reigns, and he can go back anytime he wants. He ended up saying that next time he will bring back the title. He ended up saying, but that's SmackDown business, and this is Raw, and it's come to his attention that there is a WWE Championship Elimination Chamber. So he ended up saying that he came to the KO show with a special announcement on that match. So Rollins ended up calling for a drum roll. And Rollins ended up announcing that he will be a participant in the Elimination Chamber, joining Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. So there you go. Seth Rollins didn't have to qualify. Automatically in the Elimination Chamber with Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. So Kevin Owens ended up bringing up Rollins being in without qualifying. Rollins ended up saying that he's in because of his performance against Reigns. So Kevin Owens looked a bit annoyed, and he ended up saying that he's not worried because he will qualify later. So Owens ended up wanting Rollins to go find Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce to tell them that he will not compete in the Elimination Chamber unless they let him in without qualifying. So Rollins ended up hesitating, and Kevin Owens ended up saying that he would do it for Rollins. So then Austin Theory ended up coming out for his match against Kevin Owens, and this was how the segment ended. But overall, just a very meh segment. And then we had Austin Theory versus Kevin Owens, Elimination Chamber qualifying match. This was a good match here. Really liked this match. The crowd, like they enjoyed it as well. So the match started off with Kevin Owens. He was unloaded with some chops to Austin Theory. Owens kept control of the match. Theory ended up turning it around in the corner, started working Kevin Owens with some right hands. Kevin Owens ended up dumping Austin Theory to the apron, and Theory ended up decking Owens. Theory then rolled into the ring with a rolling drop kick to Kevin Owens, And he went for the cover. Kevin Owens ended up kicking out at 2. Theory ended up delivering a right hand and elbow in the corner to Owens. He delivered more punches in the corner to Owens. Owens ended up coming out of the corner, turned it around on Austin Theory, beat Austin Theory back against the turnbuckles. So Kevin Owens ended up leveling Austin Theory to the clothesline. Owens ended up going for a corner cannonball, but Theory ended up retreating out to the floor. Theory ended up pulling Kevin Owens to the floor. Owens ended up countering. He ended up launching Theory into the barricade. And Owens ended up nailing a big cannonball into the barricade. So Owens was talking trash as he brought Theory back to the ring. Theory ended up rolling right back out to the floor as Kevin Owens ended up following. Theory ended up kicking Owens in the face. And Owens ended up slamming Kevin Owens back onto the ring steps. And Kevin Owens ended up hitting the back of his head and his spine, which that looked like it had to hurt really bad for Kevin Owens. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Owens and Theory were going at it. Owens ended up nailing an enziguri and a DDT. So Theory ended up jumping up with a forearm to Owens. So Theory ended up climbing up. He started delivering some strikes to Owens, but Owens ended up headbutting Theory down to the mat. Owens ended up going for a springboard moonsault, and Austin Theory ended up moving out of the way. Theory ended up coming right back. He delivered a over-the-top blockbuster type neck breaker to Kevin Owens, which looked awesome. And Theory went for the cover, and Kevin Owens ended up kicking out. So Theory ended up going for the ATL, and Owens ended up fighting Theory off his shoulders. He then delivered a chop. Kevin Owens ended up kept on fighting Austin Theory. Theory ended up dropping Kevin Owens on his neck over his knee, and he went for the cover, which Owens ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, we had Theory end up nailing the ATL on Kevin Owens, and he went for the cover, and there you go. Austin Theory ended up winning the match. He now qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. There was a point in the match, forgot to mention, where Theory ended up climbing up, and he delivered a suplex, and Kevin Owens ended up countering. Kevin Owens ended up hitting a superplex to Austin Theory, which that was a nice spot there. But even I knew that Kevin Owens wasn't going to win the match. The only reason why Kevin Owens was in the match was for him to lose, because Kevin Owens doesn't want to go to Saudi. He doesn't want to go over there. So that's the only reason why Austin Theory ended up fighting Kevin Owens tonight. For Kevin Owens to get the loss, so Kevin Owens doesn't want to go to Saudi. That was what Kevin Owens was put in the match for. Just to lose to Austin Theory. Post-match, Kevin Owens was clutching his knee, and Austin Theory ended up rolling out to the floor. He took a selfie, and that was basically that. Overall, good match. Really enjoyed it. So then we saw the scooter race continuing backstage. Riddle ended up stopping at the Street Profits to have a drink. So Riddle ended up riding off. Chad Gable ended up coming, and the Profits end up refusing Chad Gable for the refreshments. So Otis ended up coming for a drink, and apparently Chad Gable ended up discovering that the cup is filled full of steak sauce. So now Gable and Riddle were on lap 39 of 50. So pretty much that was that. And then we had Angelo Dawkins versus Dolph Ziggler. This was very meh matchup here. So the Street Profits end up coming out first. And then Dolph Ziggler ended up coming out. Robert Roode wasn't there tonight. Robert Roode wasn't on the show. So the match ended up starting. Dolph Ziggler ended up nailing a drop kick to Dawkins. He ended up knocking Dawkins out, and he went for the cover. Dawkins ended up kicking out at 2. So this was in Dawkins' hometown. So Dolph ended up launching Dawkins into the ring post. He ended up manhandling him, and Dolph went for the cover, and Dawkins ended up kicking out at 2. Dolph ended up raking Dawkins' eyes, and Dolph kept control of the match. He was delivering some offense on Dawkins. Ziggler ended up grounding Dawkins in the headlock, which Dawkins ended up fighting out of it, and Dolph ended up cutting him off, delivered a swinging neck breaker. Dolph went for a splash in the corner to Dawkins. Ziggler ended up going for another corner splash, and he ended up hitting it. Ziggler ended up mocking Dawkins. Dawkins ended up coming right back, delivering a right hand to Dolph, and both Ziggler and Dawkins were down here. So Dawkins ended up running the ring, and he started unloading some offense on Dolph. So we had Ziggler end up coming back with a roll-up on Dawkins. Dawkins ended up kicking out 2. Ziggler ended up dropping Dawkins with a DDT, but he had a bad landing with that. So he went for the cover. Dawkins ended up kicking out 2. So Dawkins ended up pinning the underhook neck breaker to Dolph, and he went for the cover. And there you go. Angelo Dawkins ended up winning the match. Overall, very meh match. So then we saw the scooter race was continuing backstage between Riddle and Chad Gable. They were on lap 49 of 50. So Riddle ended up hitting Chad Gable with a bag of cotton candy, and Monday Night Raw went to commercial. So then Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, and once again we see a vignette for Veer Mahaan coming soon. When is he coming? And there was a picture that I saw tonight during Monday Night Raw that Veer Mahaan made an appearance on Main Event. So there you go. They got Veer Mahaan being on Main Event. So we're still getting these vignettes of Veer Mahaan coming soon to Monday Night Raw when he's on Main Event. So Veer Mahaan is still coming to Monday Night Raw. So then we went to ringside. Kevin Patrick was with R-Truth, and Kevin Patrick ended up asking R-Truth who's going to win the scooter race. And he ended up saying Cincinnati. So Chad Gable and Riddle end up coming from the back riding their scooters. They end up riding down the ramp. Chad Gable ended up falling at ringside, and he was selling a knee injury. So Riddle was riding to the finish line. Near the commentary table, they had a black and yellow taped line out there by the commentary table. So Riddle was almost there. He was taking his time. And then Otis ended up coming out of nowhere. He was wearing a suit. He ended up flattening Riddle, ended up knocking him off the scooter. Chad Gable ended up easily riding over, and his knee was perfectly fine. He ended up crossing the finish line to win the challenge. So Chad Gable ended up winning the scooter race. Alpha Academy ended up celebrating. So Riddle ended up getting on the mic. He ended up ranting about how that was not cool. How they killed all integrity of the race. Because he ended up saying, do you know what Randy Orton would have done? Chad Gable ended up interrupting. He ended up hushing Riddle. So Chad Gable ended up wondering if his cauliflower ears are deceiving him. And is Riddle accusing him of being a liar? Chad Gable ended up saying that he has never lied. Not in the Olympics. Not when he earned his GPA. Nothing. Chad Gable ended up saying that it sounds like Riddle is asking for a match. And he's got a match. But with Otis. So Otis then stood tall. Riddle ended up looking off from the ring. Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had Riddle versus Otis. So Adam Pearce ended up coming out to interrupt. He ended up announcing that this is now a Elimination Chamber qualifying match. So there you go. Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Riddle versus Otis. This was a good match here. So Riddle ended up attacking Otis, started unloading with some right hands. Otis ended up kicking Riddle. Basically, Otis carried this match. He was dominating on Riddle. Otis ended up running over Riddle with ease. Otis ended up beating Riddle around the ring. And he ran the ropes, hit a splash on Riddle. And he went for the cover. Riddle kicked out too. Otis ended up grounding Riddle in a submission. Riddle ended up fighting back up. He ended up charging, and Otis ended up knocking his head off with a back elbow. So Otis ended up taking Riddle to the corner, started delivering some thrusts to Riddle in the corner. Riddle tried to fight, and Otis ended up kicking him, ended up sending him out to the floor. Chad Gable ended up walking over. He started taunting Riddle. Riddle ended up coming back to the ring. Riddle then ran the ropes. Otis ended up sending Riddle flying with a shoulder. So Otis ended up manhandling Riddle more. Otis ended up grounding Riddle again. Riddle ended up fighting up. And Otis ended up decking him and nailed a body slam. And then an elbow drop. But at the end of the match, we had Riddle going back up to the top. And he delivered the floating bro onto Otis. And he went for the cover. And there you go. Riddle ended up winning the match. And Riddle now qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. Overall, this was a good match here. So then we had Bianca Belair versus Carmella. Match was snoozer. Bianca Belair came out first, and then Carmella ended up coming out. So Carmella ended up coming into the ring. She had her ugly face mask on. So the match ended up starting. Bianca Belair slammed Carmella, started mounting her from behind. So Bianca Belair started working Carmella over. Bianca Belair ended up going for Carmella's hair, and they went back and forth. Carmella ended up slapping Bianca. So Bianca ended up chasing her around the ring. And they went back in. Carmella started stomping away on Bianca. Bianca then ended up running over Carmella with a shoulder. Carmella ended up using a handful of tights to pull Bianca face first into the turnbuckles. So Carmella was talking trash to Bianca, started unloading on Bianca in the corner. Carmella then continued to ragdoll Bianca against the ropes. So Carmella ended up delivering some back elbows to Bianca in the corner. So the match was just really dragging here. So at the end of the match, Bianca Belair ended up decking Carmella in the face. She ended up nailing the KOD to Carmella. And Bianca went for the cover. And there you go. She ended up winning the match, Bianca Belair. Overall, snoozer of a match. Match was terrible. So then we had Alexa Bliss journey back to Monday Night Raw again, where Alexa Bliss was with her therapist. Bliss was talking to the replica of Lily, to which the therapist plugged that he got it from WWE Shop. So there you go, a WWE Shop plug right there. And Alexa Bliss ended up going on about how she misses her. So the therapist ended up telling Bliss that this isn't the real Lily. It's the one that he bought on WWE Shop. So the therapist ended up giving Alexa Bliss Lily the doll. Alexa Bliss ended up taking it. She started embracing it. And she ended up smiling. And that was that. Awful. Absolutely awful. Then we had the Alpha Academy. They were with Kevin Patrick backstage. And we had Chad Gable end up laughing because they showed, of course, how the scooter race played out earlier. So Chad Gable ended up laughing. He ended up saying, of course he won the race. He's an Olympian. He ended up saying, most importantly, they get to choose the challenge for next week. So the challenge next week will be a quiz bowl. So Chad Gable ended up saying that when RK Bro loses the quiz, which he knows that they will, RK Bro can kiss a title shot goodbye. So that was basically that. But quiz bowl, oh boy. These have been awful. The scooter race tonight was awful. The quiz bowl next week should be more awful. We gotta be doing these challenges just for RK Bro to get a rematch for the Raw Tag Team titles. Absolutely fucking awful. Then we had AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. Elimination Chamber qualifying match. So we had AJ Styles end up making his way out. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rey Mysterio ended up coming out. So the match ended up starting. Both Styles and Rey ended up shaking hands. They ended up locking up. Styles ended up taking it to the corner. He kept control of the match. Styles ended up backing off Rey on the ropes. They ended up running the ropes. Styles ended up leveling Rey with a shoulder. It was back and forth between them. Rey ended up fighting up and out with a head scissors, and Styles ended up decking him. Styles nailed a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Rey. He delivered a forearm. He then launched Rey out to the floor, but Rey ended up landing on his feet. Rey ended up drop-kicking Styles off the apron out to the floor. So Rey ended up running the ring. He ended up sliding under the bottom rope for a splash. Styles ended up getting his knees up. And Rey ended up launching Styles into the barricade with head scissors. And Monday Night Raw went to commercial. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Styles ended up having Rey grounded in the middle of the ring. And Rey ended up kicking Styles, hit a springboard moonsault. Styles ended up catching him in midair. And Rey ended up turning that into a DDT. And Rey delivered another Hurricanrana on Styles. Rey ended up delivering a springboard crossbody. And Rey kept control of the match. Styles ended up nailing a right hand to Rey. He ended up going on and he ended up hitting the backbreaker over his knee to Rey. He ended up going for the cover. Rey ended up kicking out too. Rey then ended up launching Styles into position for the 619. Styles ended up ducking it. Styles ended up springboarding up for the phenomenal forearm. And Rey ended up sidestepping. Styles ended up going for the calf crusher. But that was also blocked by Rey. Rey ended up kicking Styles in the head. And both Rey and Styles were down. Rey ended up taking Styles to the top. And Styles ended up blocking the Hurricanrana. He ended up going for a Super Styles Clash, but Rey ended up blocking it. Rey leapt from the second rope. He ended up sending Styles into position for the 619, which Rey ended up nailing it. He nailed the 619 to Styles. Rey ended up going up to the top, and he ended up missing the splash. So Styles ended up nailing a Pele kick to Rey's head. Styles ended up calling for the Styles Clash, but Rey ended up turning it into a senton. Rey ended up going back up to the top for the senton, and he ended up hitting it. Styles ended up rolling through. So Styles ended up setting up Rey in position for the Styles Clash, which he ended up hitting, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Styles ended up winning the match, and he qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. So there you go. You have Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, and Matt Riddle, and AJ Styles in the Elimination Chamber. So who I see winning the Elimination Chamber, my prediction, I think Styles should win the Elimination Chamber. He needs to win the WWE Championship, because that would be good for Styles. So that's my prediction. AJ Styles wins the Chamber and wins the WWE Championship. Overall, this was a decent match here between Styles and Rey Mysterio. And then we had the main event segment where Ronda Rousey ended up coming out. Ronda Rousey making her return to Monday Night Raw. So Rousey ended up coming into the ring. She looked up at the WrestleMania sign. She ended up saying that she's been debating since Saturday about which title she wants to take at WrestleMania, whether it be Charlotte or Becky. She ended up saying that she has unfinished business with both. She ended up saying that Becky Lynch really doesn't deserve it, because the biggest title for either woman would be against her, against Ronda Rousey. She ended up saying that Becky backstabbed her in the back, and that she should choose Charlotte just to prove that Becky is still on her undercard than Charlotte. She ended up saying that Becky Lynch and everyone else will know that the baddest big-time bitch is her. So Ronda Rousey dropped the mic, and out came Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch got on the mic, and she ended up calling Ronda Rousey a little weirdo. She ended up going on about how she missed Ronda, saying that it's nice to see that she hasn't changed. Becky ended up saying that Ronda loses credibility with statements like her is on her undercard, when no one else in the company has been able to beat her. And she's been winning this whole time, when we didn't know if Ronda was coming back. So Becky ended up saying that everyone knows Becky Lynch versus Ronda is the biggest match of the decade. Becky Lynch ended up saying that she knows this is Ronda's first WrestleMania back, so she would understand if Ronda just wants to go for Charlotte as an appetizer. But if she wants to go right for the meat and potatoes, she is game. Becky is game. So Becky ended up saying that she wants her to hurry up, because the Raw Women's division is waiting, and she needs to know who she's beating next. Becky Lynch ended up saying that time is money, and when you're big time, it's big money. So Becky Lynch was pressuring Ronda to name her opponent. Ronda ended up grabbing Becky Lynch's arm to take the mic, and she ended up slamming Becky to the mat. Ronda Rousey ended up holding Becky Lynch down by her arm, and Ronda ended up telling Becky, "We'll have my answer on Friday." So Ronda Rousey's music ended up starting up, and she ended up making her way out of the ring. And Becky Lynch was seething. So Becky Lynch ended up getting up. She got on the mic, and she yelled at Ronda. She ended up saying, "Oh, that was so rude." So she ended up taking a shot at Cincinnati. And then out came LITA, WWE Hall of Famer LITA, a WWE legend. So LITA ended up asking to Becky Lynch, what's Ronda Rousey's problem? And how could she talk to Becky Lynch like that? The GOT like that. So Becky Lynch ended up agreeing with LITA. So LITA kept sucking up to Becky Lynch. Becky ended up saying that she was a fan of LITA growing up, and may have gotten in trouble for wearing her thong outside of her pants when she was younger. So Lita ended up respecting how Becky is a fine champion and doesn't back down from a challenge. Becky Lynch ended up agreeing. She ended up seeing where this is going. So Lita ended up challenging Becky Lynch to a match at Elimination Chamber. So it looks like Lita's getting a match for the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber. So Becky Lynch ended up denying the challenge. Lita ended up saying that Becky never backs down from a challenge. And this is a challenge. Becky Lynch ended up saying that Lita was taking things out of context. So Lita ended up saying that it's a lot of work defending the title. So if Becky Lynch is scared, she should just say so. So Becky Lynch ended up saying that she is not scared, and that if Lita wants a match at Elimination Chamber, she's got it. So the fans ended up popping for that, and Lita was happy. So both Lita and Becky were staring each other down, and that's how Monday Night Raw went off the air tonight. But Ronda Rousey, when she was delivering her promo, she looked like she didn't want to be there. I don't blame her. So, but Lita, getting her match against Becky Lynch at Elimination Chamber, she's getting a shot at the Raw Women's Championship. So, there you go. That's going to be happening at Elimination Chamber. Should be a good match against Lita and Becky Lynch. A legend versus, the current Raw Women's Champion. So, should be a good match. Looking forward to it. So, but that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Overall, terrible show. Awful. So anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and there will be no Dynamite review this Wednesday. So they'll possibly be coming maybe Thursday or on Friday. So depending on those 2 days. So until then, I'll see you all later.